Hi guys, Dan and Jaime from IMeasureU, and welcome to our new series called Let's Measure. So it's going to be a series taking a look at various different movements and activities, different sports, a whole range of things. And myself and Dan are going to take a look at the activity. We'll have a few short clips of the activity, and then we're going to dive a bit into the metrics from IMeasureU Step to see what type of information you can gather and some cool insights. So episode number 1 is Let's Measure Running. Dan's done some running drills, so over to him and we'll take a look at what he's got for us. Dan.
Yeah, so as you say, Jaime, I've been collecting some running data, field-based running data, which forms part of a wider project. So I'm looking into some of the comparisons between IMeasureU step metrics and GPS metrics, but we won't go into that now. We can discuss that at a later date. So yeah, just to give you a little bit of background, I'm following, or I've laid out a 6-week running-based protocol, which involves me running twice to 3 times a week. And what I've been doing, or what I'm going to present here, is a comparison of 2 sessions, both the same. So same drills, same duration. One's wearing studded footwear, football boots, and one's wearing running trainers. So hopefully, I won't tell you which, and hopefully you can tell me which one was done in football boots and which one was done in running trainers. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen, because yeah, like you say, I've got a recording of the process. So I'm gonna take you through from start to finish. So I'm gonna show you me attaching the sensors, and then we can go through the repetition. So as you can see, I've got GPS vest on my back. So in terms of considerations, I wanted to make sure that I start both systems at the same time, so it's easy for me to compare the 2 different data sources when I come to analysing that data going forward. I should also say that I'm tracking my heart rate here using a heart rate monitor, and I'm using a stopwatch on my phone to dictate the time limitations in between sets. So this particular running workout had 3 different sets and a number of repetitions in between. So this is me initiating or embarking on rep 1 of set 1. So just to go over what I'm doing here, the total distance is 301 meters. So these are all pitch-based shuttle runs. I had 65 seconds to complete this particular repetition. So that's a speed of 4.63 meters per second. So in terms of other things that I'm tracking during this time, obviously looking at my GPS metrics, so total distance, high speed running distance. We'll look to compare methods of monitoring mechanical load between GPS and IMeasureU Step. And then I'm also looking at weather conditions, various subjective measures, so feelings of soreness, rate of perceived exertion, and I'm looking to kind of pull this all together for analysis once the 6 weeks is over. So that's the end of repetition number 1. Into set number 2, rep number 1. So this was slightly longer in duration, so 334 meters in total. I had 70 seconds to complete it, and overall I was completing 3 repetitions, and that was the same in the first set. So this is a speed of 4.77 meters per second. As you can tell from the noise, the wind is howling. It's much more difficult coming back towards the camera than it was running out. And just in terms of further considerations as well, obviously it's really important that I get the distances the same for each of these sessions. So I'm using like a meter trundle to mark out the pitch, because although this is on a football pitch, there's no pitch markings at the moment for obvious reasons. So I take my meter trundle down with me every session and mark the pitch out appropriately. So the pitch length or these sessions, they're designed over 100 meters. And then you've got the components of a football pitch there on in. So into set number 3, this is the final set. This was a lot shorter in duration, so it was half the distance of set number 2, so 167 meters in total. And I had 35 seconds to complete this, which was a speed of 4.77 meters per second. So fastest speeds were required in this last set to achieve the distance in the given time. So this will end on me finishing right at the top. And there you have it.
Cool.
Any questions about the kind of running protocol, Jaime? Anything to discuss before I go on to the dashboard?
No, I think for me that's all good. Just to confirm, those obviously set 1 and set 2 were 3 reps, where set 3 was 6 reps, but a shorter distance per rep.
Correct. So in terms of total distance for the whole session, running distance that is, it was 2,907 meters. So the 3 reps for set number 1 constituted 903 meters. The 3 reps for set number 2 was 1,002 meters. And then the 6 reps for set number 3 was also 1,002 meters. So the distance was exactly half. So obviously those of you watching that know about IMeasureU, you can add in footnotes to provide greater context. These are basically descriptives of what you're doing at any given moment in time. Screen to show you the IMeasureU. This is a session that I actually conducted earlier on today, and you can see here that I have a few footnotes that I've already added in. So I chose to do these at the time today, the first repetition of every set, just because it was easy for me to kind of identify. And as you can see, for interval running, identifying footnotes or adding in footnotes retrospectively is really easy, because there's periods of work and obviously periods of rest. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the remaining footnotes. So I'm going to select it from the drop-down menu. I've obviously added all of these in previously. So I've got the second one popping up there. And I must point out, because you're looking at these periods of work, and they'll be different to what I've just discussed. These are from a session today, so this is a different drill on the same pitch and using the same parameters, but it's just slightly different set. So just bear with me whilst I add these in. So I'm not gonna add all of them in. I just want to do this for kind of context. So I'll add one more in, set to rep number 2.
And Dan, just to be clear, you've obviously got preset footnotes, but you can add in or create any footnote you want, name it anything you want, that so you're aware of what it is, correct?
Absolutely. So yeah, as you mentioned, throughout my data collection, I've added in the various footnotes. I'm just going to click save there. But you can, if you're adding a new one, add a completely new one if it's not on your database. So just clicking that add button there, and you type it in and hit the tick. So let's pretend that I've added in all of the footnotes that I needed to add in. You've got a list of them down here, so you can see the durations just underneath. If I cancel that out, it'll be helpful. So you can see the durations there. If I go ahead and click confirm, that will take me through to a processing screen. So obviously within IMeasureU, you can process simply to the dashboard, and you can get the insight from the dashboard. You can process to the dashboard and also obtain the raw data via CSV file, and you can get the raw data only. So I won't click process, but I'd be doing both. And what I'm going to do now is take us to the dashboard so we can see what it actually looks like. So just bear with me.
Why don't we discuss a bit of the raw data, Dan?
We can go into the raw data if you want, mate. But
no, thank you.
The insight from the dashboard is a lot more exciting. Can you see the screen there, James?
Yes. Oh, excuse me. Yes, I can.
So just to go over, you obviously access your cloud-based dashboard via our website, and you can access this from wherever in the world with your login credentials. I'm going to go ahead once my computer is loaded and select my profile. So this is under a specific Dan conditioning profile. So the two sessions we're going to compare are those from the 17th and the second session from the 19th. So you'll see that there is a slight difference in time there. That's just me being lax in terms of starting and stopping the sessions. I can confirm that the same number of sets and reps were conducted and within the same period of time. So as I said earlier, the only difference between the session on the 17th and the 19th is footwear. And immediately, just by looking at those two sessions, you can see a drastic difference in total impact load, which is our external mechanical loading metric, which is derived from measurements taken from both limbs, obviously. So James, just putting you on the spot there, you can see those two impact load values. Which one was conducted in football boots? Which one was conducted in running trainers?
Well, if I had to hazard a guess, I would say football boots had the lower impact load and the trainers had the higher impact load. So the 17th trainers, 19th football.
Why would you say that?
Well, I mean, granted, I might not know the exact the football boots you were wearing, but purely because of the way we would assume the impacts to attenuate and how the forces would go with an impact boot with studs and how you'd expect it to, when I say dissipate, I think dissipate might be the wrong word, but that's what the football boots are built for, right? Where the trainers are essentially built more for road potentially or treadmill running.
Well, you're actually wrong, mate.
Okay.
So just putting that out there. So the first session was conducted in the football boots and gave me a corresponding total impact load value of 52.2. And the second session was in running trainers. So there's a clear difference and distinct difference between footwear types. This was the same pitch and the same duration. So we'll dive a little bit into the first session. So this is the session with the football boots. So you can see my impact load profile in this top graph here. And there's another strange thing here because you can see that my impact load on my left leg was actually higher than my right leg, which for you anyway, you'll know that I am right dominant. I usually have a profound preference for my right leg. So another thing to note in this session is that I actually started the session with a fairly tight right calf. So subconsciously, I didn't feel like I was offloading my right leg, but clearly I was. This has changed my running profile completely, and in this session, I actually am favouring or hitting the ground harder with my left leg, which is interesting in itself. So to go over the summary statistics on the right-hand side, you can see the difference in impact load to left and right. You can also see the breakdown in terms of low, medium, and high intensity steps. So 1,500, just over 1,500 high intensity steps. So 80% of these steps were high intensity, which is going to be even clearer in this next graph. So you can see there that everything above that red line is considered high intensity, and you can see a clear dominance on the left hand side there. And what we'll do is we'll utilize these footnotes to kind of flick through and see how they compare from set to set. So if you can see on the screen there, the impact load values are shown for each individual footnote. So throughout this first set, pretty steady, not much change. Would suggest that not massively fatigued, and I've kept the same sort of running mechanics, let's say, throughout the set. Set number 2, there is a difference between first and last. So again, 5.8K, a little bit more than set number 1, but it was a little bit longer, a little bit further distance, which is to be expected. But set number 3 is slightly higher again. So yeah, you saw the shift there in terms of the distribution of those steps, slightly higher particularly on the left hand side. And then set number 3, so this had the same meters per second value as set number 2. So you wouldn't expect much difference in the intensity of those impacts per se. And again, I've managed to keep that pretty constant. So I'm obviously recovering well between these sets. So we'll just flick to the session on the 19th to show the difference. And again, immediately you can see here from the high intensity impacts on the session card, only 39% of these impacts were high intensity. So there's a big difference there straight away. And there you go, normal service resumed. So on the Friday, my calf was feeling great, didn't have any issues.
And you're running in a circle again.
Feel any difference? Yeah, didn't subconsciously feel any difference between left and right, but my regular running profile has came back through. So I'm favouring my right hand side, and the difference is even greater than the session on Wednesday, although it's the reciprocal. So 19.8 on the right and 16.8 on the left. And what we should see here in the session asymmetry tree is the difference in distribution between impacts. So again, this is conducted in running trainers, and you can see the shift down there. So there's a lot more medium intensity steps, as is reflected in the impact load and the high intensity percentage value. We flick to the difference. We can see that there's a clear indication there that I'm striking the ground harder with my right leg than I am with my left. And this is all contributing to the difference in impact load value between right and left. So if we scroll down to the summary graph, and again, this is taking into consideration all of those sessions, but we'll look specifically at Wednesday the 17th and Friday the 19th. And if we filter out some of those steps, let's just look at the high intensity steps. You can see the difference quite drastically there.
Oh, wow.
We add in the medium intensity steps. So look, when you add in medium and high, the total values are similar, but of course the difference there is in the high intensity steps, and that's between the footwear. Basically, it's the same surface. So the only difference there is what I'm running in, and obviously that's contributed to the difference in impact load value. So this little point here is this Wednesday session, and this point right here is the Friday session. And if we again just dive in to the asymmetry profile, our asymmetry heat map, again it's this session here with the blue at the top, which is the first session that I've shown. So clearly my usual running profile has changed. I'm favouring my left hand side. That service is returned to normal on the Friday, where my usual profile running or favouring my right limb is returned. And we smooth that out. The weekly view it demonstrates this perfectly. So week 1, week 2, week 3. You see week 2 is where that profile has changed. So usually favouring my right at the higher intensities, blue or left in the moderate intensities, and again favouring my right at the lower intensities. But for this session, because of the niggly calf issue, I'm protecting that at the higher intensities, and I'm actually favouring my left limb here.
And Dan, just to confirm with that calf, just let's dive into that a little bit more, just to show how easily these changes can happen. Out of 10 on a pain scale, 0 to 10, 0 being no pain, 10 being excruciating, what would you rate that pain? I know it's a little bit past the date, but I wouldn't expect it to be an 8 or 9, was it?
No, to be fair, it was nothing more than a niggle, and it probably had something. It was just an overuse injury maybe from the session before. So the session before was, again, I had the dominance on my right leg. So I'd probably say a 2 or a 3. It didn't stop me running. I was still able to complete all of the reps. I was still able to complete the reps in the allocated time. Just I felt it. I could feel it there. Didn't feel like I changed my running patterns also. It just goes to show that the objective data can help identify changes that you wouldn't usually notice. And again, this highlights a really interesting point, because a lot of people would just obviously not have access to either the GPS or the IMU technologies and just go out and run. They follow a program and think that every week you're progressively getting harder, progressively doing more, challenging or taxing your body. But ultimately, a change as simple as the footwear you running can make a massive difference.
Fascinating. And then just, so to be clear, obviously we've got an N equals 1 here. So for you, at least, at the very least, before we extrapolate to any wider populations, in terms of biomechanical load, running on grass in football boots is much more difficult in terms of biomechanical load than running in trainers, correct?
Correct. And look, this is why IMUs are really valuable at detecting these differences, because ultimately surface, footwear, level of fatigue do affect the level of biomechanical load the body will be subject to. So I found this really interesting, and obviously, as I said at the start, this forms part of a wider project, and I'm hoping to be able to draw upon more interesting things once I've got a full 6 weeks of data. So we'll see, because all of those 6 weeks, all of those sessions throughout the 6 weeks are being conducted on the same pitch, with the same dimensions, and we'll see what the data looks like. I'm only going to include data from one condition there, i.e. I'm going to be wearing football boots all the time just to make sure that nothing has changed. But I'm expecting to see some really interesting differences between biomechanical load and balance between left and right limb when comparing the GPS and IMU data.
Perfect. And then, so obviously I got it wrong. So my hypothesis was wrong with the football boots. I mean, because intuitively you think, that's what football boots are made for, running on grass, correct? And then, so
yeah.
Dan, what was your hypothesis? Did you think that the running boots would have, or running shoes, running trainers would have a much lower impact intensity than football boots, or did you think the same as me?
It was a difficult one. So just to add a little bit further clarity, I was running in firm ground football boots. So football boots that are designed for really hard pitches or artificial surfaces. So I was expecting it to be close. The running trainers I wear aren't particularly well cushioned. They're fairly low profile. But I guess the difference in surface area between studs and trainers does make a difference. And I was expecting the difference, if any, to be towards bringing the impact load down using running trainers. So I had a slightly different thought process to you. But again, it would be really interesting to look at soft ground football boots in comparison to firm ground football boots, and see whether wearing really harsh studs on fairly hard ground at the moment makes a difference in relation to firm ground studs. And I'm expecting it would. Obviously, I think the impact loads would be even higher using bigger studs.
No, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's all the questions I have, and I mean, there's some great insights from that, and it just shows you, I think, the subtlety of objective data in terms of your pain scale 2, maybe 3 out of 10, and you've got a huge difference in your profile compared to what you typically have. So, which rectified within 48 hours as well. So, it just shows you the nuances of that step loading data.
Absolutely, mate, and it's really interesting. It's really insightful. Like I say, I was expecting a difference, but I wasn't expecting it to be as drastic as what it was. So yeah, I mean, between impact loads, I mean, close to 50% difference, right? So it's a huge difference in mechanical exposure. And of course, the difference in asymmetry profile between the Wednesday and the Friday and my sore calf was also really interesting, because although I felt the soreness and the stiffness, I didn't feel like I was running any different. And like I said, I was still completing the same distances in the same time. So I wouldn't expect to see that complete reversal of asymmetry.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all from us. Dan, do you have any closing thoughts?
No closing thoughts. Thank you for watching. As always, we'll try and develop this content to suit everybody's needs. So look out for more, and next week we'll be looking into something different.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll speak to you soon. Cheers.